very pleased you came out in this interesting weather we're having. Interesting. Some new guests tonight. Well, this is going to be a trip into our minds. And what I'd like you to just consider are certain episodes I'm going to read to you. They're quite different. Treat them somewhat independently. As you'll see, the subject matter varies almost drastically. Some are recent, some are ancient. And I want you just to think about the kind of mind that would be announcing these phrases that I will read to you. Then we'll talk about that. Alec Guinness, the movie actor. Some of you perhaps do not know him. He was quite famous in the middle of last century, up into the 80s. He appeared, for example, in The Bridge Over the River Kwai. He was in many British comedies. He's quite an accomplished actor. He went out to dinner one night with Dr. Thelma Moss. Dr. Thelma Moss was a research psychologist at the UCLA. She was very much interested in biofeedback, energy, the capacity of the human being to cast off colored energy like an aura. She was very critical. She also knew Swami Rama. So the two of them were walking down the street in Hollywood, looking for a restaurant that was open. It was a Friday night. They came upon an Italian bistro, but it was so full they had to walk away. As they did, a young man got up from a table and came running after them. He introduced himself and offered seating at his table since he was the only one. They accepted, and as they walked back, he paused to sort of show off a large, shiny silver parcel in cellophane with a red carnation around it and tied with a ribbon. It was a new sports convertible that someone gave him. He was quite proud of it. Surprising to Alec, and he kept it to himself, the sports car looked sinister. And he asked, how fast does this car go? Quickly he responded, 150. Oh. Then Alec said, and he remarked that he didn't recognize his voice as he was about to speak words that he was surprised by. Never had this happened before to him. And he announced to the young man, "It's now 10 o'clock, Friday, the 23rd of September. If you get in this car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." Alex was so overcome, he apologized, saying it was due to his lack of food and sleep after traveling 16 hours from Copenhagen. The evening went on. Well, they departed without an attention to any of those remarks. But Alec continued to feel uneasy for the rest of the week. The week went by. At 4 o'clock the following Friday, while driving that same car, James Dean was killed. Okay. It was a winter vacation for Daniel Troy, a Washington constitutional attorney. He decided to go to Czechoslovakia. It was December 1989. Quote, "I figured what better way to spend some time than to see the death of communism." He walked into the Civic Forum building, and there he met Rita Klimova, President Havel's translator. Teresa also met her. "I'm an American constitutional lawyer. Can I help?" She looked at him. handed him a one-page document that summarized the revised Czech Constitution in English. Troy said, "Rita, I have an idea. I will translate the entire Czech Constitution with you if you will help me. I don't know any Czech, but you don't know any constitutional law." Unbelievably, they created the new constitution together for Czechoslovakia. As a result, Eastern nations all over were beginning to codify their democracies into constitutions, a new era of rule by law. Previously, the governing principle was rule by party. You know what that means, huh? When Troy got back to New York, he got so excited he formed a group called Charter 77 Foundation in New York, and lawyers volunteered their services to the new countries over in Europe. Okay. Watching the sun go down, the old Dakota medicine man turned to his little grandson and said, "Everyone has two wolves fighting within themselves. One is full of divisiveness, dishonesty, betrayal, thievery, arrogance, selfishness. The other wolf is full of generosity, patience, veracity, and compassion." That's all he said. The little boy pondered for a while and then looked at his grandfather with wide open eyes and asked, "Who will win?" The grandfather looked steadily into the little boy's eyes and replied, "Whichever one is fed." You may not appear before the Senate hearing committee, but you do have met situations where perhaps you feel you've been taken advantage of, disrespected, exploited. And it's hard sometimes to deal with situations with that. At first you think, if I lose my temper, oh, I've failed myself. Usually temper, anger, always has a rational factor, unlike fear. So be careful. Don't put yourself out of the fight yet. We can't help but meet opposition as we grow. It's not always because someone is out to get us. It's simply because we're living in a world with thousands of minds that have intentions that are trying to implement them. And we cross. And sometimes we cross and we get in each other's way. Not because we planned it that way, because we didn't want it that way. We wanted a clear field. But someone got in my way. Like, why did that person take my parking spot? He knew I was going to turn in there, you know. You'd start rehearsing that one. These are the opportunities. Because quite frankly, you won't grow without them. Oh, geez, does that mean as I get higher, I get more? No. Over there. You get different ones. So, don't assume the path is rosy. It's not. You're going to meet, in a sense, those unmirrored facets of who you don't think you are. And then find out you are. Oh, I do have that proclivity. I do have that inclination. Yeah, when the chips are down, let's see what flies. Not too long ago, a woman came in to see me. And she says, "I can't get my father off my head." What do you mean? I was never able to please him. No matter what I did. I was never good enough for him. I see. How old are you? 36. Is Dad still doing this? No, he died 18 years ago. I see. So you're still carrying him around? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Do you want to? Well, no. Well, then why don't you drop him? But I can't. Why can't you? Is he holding on? What I did, I got her to turn around into her issue and look at it and start questioning its value. We shy away from our fears, we shy away from our troubles, thinking that somehow if I ignore it, it'll go away. It won't. Not if it's important. Because she was working under a false supposition that somehow she's got to please her dad for the rest of her life. He did a good job on her. Now it's time for her to outgrow it. Huh? You think for a moment, how often do we do that to ourselves? We hang on to something from the past, whatever it may be, and we keep hitting ourselves. Why? Take it easy, folks. You've got enough welts. Turn around and face it. That's what yoga wants you to do. Huh? You don't need to carry any baggage from the past unless you choose. And that's the crucial step. Because quite frankly, she chose it, but she, in a sense, didn't realize that. She thought she had to. Well, luckily, we hope that now she doesn't have to. So within us are tendencies to get even if we've been hurt, sometimes to sneak around corners, huh? Those two wolves that the medicine man talked about, huh? They're always fighting for ascendancy. Which one are you going to feed? That's your choice. If you step back and think about some of the issues you had to go through, could you have done it differently? Could there have been less pain? Less reprisal? Probably. But don't sit here now and blame yourself because you didn't do it. The point is, see it for what it is. Swami used to say, you have to light your lamp. I can't do it for you. You have to. It's got to be your endeavor. You choose. But to light the lamp, you've got to get all the stuff out of the way. That's a cumbersome, huh? And fear, as we've talked before, fear is no substance. Anger sometimes does, but fear never does. It's a mirage, a threatening. It wins by bluff and intimidation. It's like senators. Swami used to say, either turn and face it or drop it. That's all. Decide. Hey, I don't have to carry this, huh? If I don't like this coat, give it away, throw it away. Why should I pester myself, allow it to, fester in my mind? Because it can hurt my body too, over time. So, in our endeavor to proceed through life, raise our family, work, enjoy our friends, and so on, there are going to be eruptions at times, unexpected, unpredictable. Okay, let's find out what you're like when things go awry. This tells you an awful lot about yourself. Not the good times. It's when things are not working out exactly. And well, of course, we always want to blame everybody out there. Well, sometimes I can, I get mad at the rain, but it's not going to change the rain. I can kick the tire that just went flat, but it's not going to change the tire. It's that simple, really. The moral path, the spiritual path are not hard. If you just keep your center, realizing, I now will choose my response. And I will see what those consequences are. We often resist what is so obvious in terms of how to resolve an issue. I don't know if you remember Waco, or if you remember the gentleman up in Idaho, when the CIA, FBI, ATF, everybody came in to attack him. And in court, the attorney that was defending the gentleman asked the agents, each one, why didn't you just go up and announce you were coming and you'd like to talk to him? Because he offered that, and you never took it up. Instead, you shot his wife. He was found not guilty. And it cost the government $1.5 million. You know, like I say, sometimes the simplest things, I get mad, I hold it in, bad choice. Deal with it. Forget it, or let's go talk. I've got something here I'd like to discuss with you. Perhaps I'm not seeing the whole picture. Could you please explain why this had occurred? Go from there. I know some people seem to be rather stubborn. But you're just going to have to be clever. You keep your calmness, you'll keep a nimble mind. You get angry, you're only going to see one way. Because your emotions are shoving you that way. They're defending you. So if you can keep your poise, you are much more flexible to be able to maneuver. Huh? That's why good martial artists are hard to find. But when you find them, they are very nimble. Well, I'd like to just pause here and give you my final story. There was a cowboy named Bud. He was overseeing his herd in a remote mountainous pasture in Northern California, when suddenly a brand new BMW advanced out of a cloud of dust towards him. The driver, a young man in a Brioni suit and Gucci shoes, Ray-Ban sunglasses, and a YSL tie, leaned out the window and said to the cowboy, "Hey, if I tell you exactly how many cows and calves you have in your herd, will you give me a calf?" Bud cocked his head, looked at the man, obviously a yuppie, then looked at his peacefully grazing herd. Okay, sure, why not? The yuppie parked his car, whipped out his Dell notebook computer, connected it to a Singular Razor V3 cell phone, and he surfed to a NASA page on the internet. There he called up a GPS satellite to get an exact fix on his location, which he fed to another NASA satellite that scanned the whole area in ultra-high resolution photo. Then the young man opened his digital photo in Adobe Photoshop and exported it to an image processing facility in Hamburg, Germany. Bud's just looking at him. Within seconds, he received an email on his Palm Pilot that the image had been processed and the data stored. He then accessed his database through an ODBC connected Excel spreadsheet with an email on his BlackBerry, and in a few minutes he received a response. He printed it out in full color because he had that in the back seat. Here his miniature laser jet printer finally turned out what he was expecting, and he said, "Hey, cowboy, you have exactly 1,586 animals." "That's right," said Bud. The young man was quite pleased. "Well, I guess you can take one of them." So he watched the young man select one of the animals and took it to the back seat of his trunk to try to stuff it into it. Then Bud says to the young man, "Hey, if I tell you exactly what your business is, will you give me back my animal?" The young man stared at him for a moment. "Oh, hey, okay, why not? Who am I?" "Well, you're a congressman." "Wow, that's correct. How did you guess that?" "No guessing involved." You showed up here, even though nobody called you. You want to get paid for an answer I already know, to a question I never asked. You tried to show me how much smarter than me you are, and you don't know a thing about cows. This is a herd of sheep. Now give me back my dog out of your trunk. Now, there's another mindset for you. It's one of my favorite. Humor can diffuse an awful lot of things, folks. If you can get to it, if you can remember. You know, I was at Notre Dame last weekend, and I had a run-in with last year. I was ready to just say, the heck with you people. So I wrote a scathing letter to them, telling them how selfish they were. They wanted me to pay full price to hear myself talk. Can you imagine that? So I told them what I thought of that idea. Well, apparently, since they decided to do it with all the invited speakers who came from out of town, they got 5 letters from a bunch of us. I didn't know they wrote it independently of me. So they changed the whole front office. Boy, were they polite when I arrived. But they still had to be a little niggardly, so they decided to charge me $25 for all these empty rooms on campus. So I said, okay, the heck with them. But, amazing. I spoke with them, and there were certain things I knew would be a little stretch, but I decided to be polite, and I teased them. I got everything I wanted. And I found that statistically it works. Whether you're standing in line in the cash register, or whether you're in the bank, It's amazing if you just say something nice to them. For the most part, they'll respond accordingly. Okay, people, it's time to meditate.